remember when I was 6 years old, a family friend took me for a flight. And I remember thinking it was a small airplane, but to me it just seemed huge. Man, I can't remember a time when I wasn't fascinated by airplanes. And my dad says he always knew when an airplane was coming by, because we grew up on a cattle ranch, and I'd be pitching hay in the barn, and all of a sudden I would tear over to the edge of the barn to look outside because I saw an airplane. I had to see, what kind of airplane this was. So when I was 16, I rededicated my life to the Lord, and was really seeking what He wanted me to do with my life. I just asked the Lord, open or close the doors as necessary, just to show me if this is the path that you have for me. And right after I prayed that, my assistant pastor, he said, "Hey, I need to introduce you to someone." And this missionary pilot from New Tribes Mission, who had flown in the Philippines, had come home from the field, and he really took me under his wing, so to speak, and mentored me in the process, taught me how to fly an airplane the way that you do in the jungle, and then the Lord just provided so many opportunities for building flight time and experience, and just really confirmed to me and just put a passion in my heart for using my skills to reach those with the gospel, because there's only one thing we can take from us in this world, and that's souls.
We were doing pre-field training in McNeil, Arizona at New Tribes Mission Aviation headquarters, and the leadership approached us and asked us to go in for a 3-hour meeting. And I was a little nervous. I wasn't sure what they were gonna ask us. And they sat us down and they said, "We have a great need for pilots overseas right now, and John has got a lot of skill and a lot of experience that we need for him to be chief pilot."
So we were asked to then very quickly make it to the mission field, and so then we were expedited through the training program that they had, and being able to complete that fairly quickly. And then the Lord then brought in our support very rapidly, and in the end of this whirlwind, we ended up with our boots on the ground in Papua New Guinea within a few short months.
So we arrive into Goroka, Papua New Guinea, and it's raining, and we walk up to this fence full of Papua New Guineans peeking in, watching these missionaries, coming off the airplane. And I was immediately overwhelmed with sight, smell, sounds, and I thought, what have we done? And I knew we had signed up to do this for the long haul, and so it actually took me about 2 months to just wrap my mind around this culture. But as time went on, I just fell in love with the people. I fell in love with their culture. They're very relational. We started to learn the language, and it really helped to learn their language.
We arrived in Papua New Guinea and just really hit the ground running. We start my flight training right away, and AD's getting plugged in the community, helping to provide hospitality and stuff to the fellow missionaries, and we're just really getting plugged in and excited about the work we're doing. And then 7 months, just 7 months after arriving on the field, then I have this accident.
So one day, John calls me right before he's gonna come home from work. He just finished a check ride that day and passed. He was really excited about it. And we had plans to go to somebody's house that night for dinner. And I get this phone call from John. The first phone call is, "Honey, how many dozen eggs do you need?" And then I told him, and then I hung up. Within 2-3 minutes later, I get another phone call from John. And it's John sounding really far away.
I get on my motorcycle to drive home on the very familiar 3-kilometer stretch between the airstrip and the mission center that I drove multiple times daily. And as I'm coming around a blind curve, there is a drunk driver that's on my side of the road coming head on. There's no shoulder. We ended up with a head-on collision. And my right leg was pinned in between the bull bumper of the Land Cruiser and the motorcycle, and my left leg was also crushed underneath, and I'm laying there with a severed artery bleeding to death. And the Lord allowed this accident to happen, but he proceeded to perform multiple miracles, any one of which had not happened, I wouldn't be here. And the first one was a local pastor who was driving by on a public motor vehicle and convinced the driver to stop and help. It's not cultural for Papua New Guineans to stop and help accident victims, but this local pastor convinced the driver, saying that we need to help this guy.
And he said, "Edie, I've been in an accident. I think I broke my legs." I said, "What?" And my hands started shaking right away. And I said, "Where are you?" And he says, "I'm going to the PNG house sick," which is another name for hospital. And I said, "I'll meet you over there." So he hung up, and I quickly called John and Candace Yacht, told them I'm bringing the kids over to the house, hung up, called the people we were going to have dinner with, told him we got to cancel dinner, John's been in an accident, hung up, got in the car shakily, really shakily.
He got me picked up from the scene and brought me to the medical clinic within literally minutes of the accident, and got me into the clinic so they could assess me and get a tourniquet on and get the blood stopped. And I had lost a tremendous amount of blood. They tested my hemoglobin. I was down to 2.7, which is not conducive to life. In fact, they took Edie aside and told her that I was either going to lose my leg or my life, and most likely it was going to be my life.
The doctors wanted to medevac John out that night, but as the evening went on, they saw that John was too unstable to move. His blood pressure was going down, he was losing blood like crazy, and they just knew they couldn't fly him out or he'd probably die on the flight.
And by the time I had the blood transfusion and everything, it was well into the night. So we had to wait till the next morning to be able to be flown out.
Our missionaries on the center that were listening all morning for the flight to take off, and they don't hear it. So a lot of them thought John had died through the night. And I got emails from missionaries after the fact just saying, "We started praying hard that morning for you guys as a family, not knowing if John had even survived the night. And we waited and waited to hear that airplane take off." And the sigh of relief that they had when they finally heard it take off as the fog lifted, we got airborne and went to Cairns, Australia.
Even when I got to the hospital and I had, just different snapshots of consciousness, of being aware, I remember them trying to save my leg and then it not taking, and seeing my foot turning black and the circulation not being there, and the doctors saying, "We think you should amputate." It's like, "No, you need to amputate or you're going to die."
I got the news that they had amputated. It went well. The surgery was fast. I was kind of surprised at how quickly it took, and I wrote to everyone to let them know God's got his leg. God's got John's leg. And it was a really surreal moment when that happened. And I realized John's love for flying, and he may not be able to fly again. And what would he do when he woke up? My first thought when I knew that they amputated his leg, I thought, we need to tell the boys. And how are they going to respond to their dad's leg being gone? And I kind of wanted to be the one to tell them the news because I wanted to be there to comfort them. But as the day got on, I thought, we need to tell them right now. Too many people are going to be talking about what happened. The boys are going to hear it from other people. They're not going to get the whole story, and they need to know. So I asked John and Candace Yacht, who are babysitting our kids, "Can you please sit down and tell them what happened? And just, let me know how it goes."
Hey guys. Hey, come here.
The question is, why, Lord? You confirmed that we need to come here, and then I've almost completed my training that I needed in the aircraft, and then here this accident takes place. But the day after my amputation, I woke up from the surgery and I felt this overwhelming sense of peace from the Holy Spirit. And the Lord was saying to me, John, this is what I have for you. Now glorify me. And I didn't have to understand, as the Lord, He has His eternal perspective that we cannot fathom, and He has His purposes, and through adversity is where He can shine. And so all I needed to know is that I needed to glorify Him through this recovery process, and that is a peculiar thing for a person after a trauma to be basically singing praises to the Lord. I'll get my leg back again. I'll have it again in glory one day. And if even one person comes to the Lord through our testimony, it's worth it. And so for whatever reason, and I may not understand it this side of heaven, I just have to trust that He is in control.
The Lord's just really been impressing on me, you can trust me. I've got this, and I'm faithful to continue what I've started in you. This good work that I've started in you, I will be faithful to complete it.
People have said, well, you've done your service, you gave your leg for the gospel, hang up the hat. And I'm like, well, no, I can fly still. And God is giving me this desire and this passion for it. It's like, why not go back? Bringing the gospel of Jesus Christ to unreached people groups. People from literally all over the world have picked up on the story and have given us cards and letters and support, and we just really thank people for that and are just really excited to be able to get back to serving the Lord.
With me, even when I'm lost at sea.